Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Worldwide TV Network, IT 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, WomenOnTV.tv, iHeartRadio, and all the platforms around the world. We got to thank Danielle Martins from Portugal, first of all, for coming on with us. And I have to say this, it's an honor and a pleasure to have Mark on, but Mark, I'm not going to introduce you. You're a disc jockey. You've been all over the world. Who are you and where are you coming from?
Well, thank you, Brian, first and foremost, for having me on. And hi, Danielle. It's lovely to have you here as well.
Hi.
So my name's Mark Wilkinson. I was resident DJ at Ministry of Sound when I was 25. I travelled to 65 countries. I DJed all over the globe, including obviously prestigious clubs across London and Ibiza and Miami and New York and all sorts of other places. It was brilliant times. I've been very, very fortunate. I remixed Lou Reed and David Bowie and put a record in the top 10. A few years ago now, but I did it, so that was a good thing. And now I'm the author of a book that's coming out very, very soon called Life Remixed.
So here's the thing about this. All right, so when you were a wee little feller, I was a disc jockey in the late 70s. I don't know if you know that or not. I don't tell everybody that. So I caught the last of Studio 54. I used to DJ in all white clubs, if you can imagine that, where I would be the only black guy there. So I was playing those hits of the Bee Gees, the Tramps, all that stuff. And then a little bit of house was starting to come in. So 1983, house music starts to come in out of Chicago. Her name is Screaming Rachel Kane. She's one of our friends of Chicago house music. 1991, I'm playing Madonna, La Isla Bonita. And I'm like, house music is coming in strong. I'm like, uh-oh, I don't know what this is, but it's time for me to retire. That's when I started to step out at that point. So it was Madonna, La Isla Bonita, and house music that made me step down and put the tables aside and bring all you youngsters in at that point. Think about this. So you start being a disc jockey. Is it age 14? I do everything off the top of my head. Would that be about right? Okay.
Yeah, well, I first got into music when I was about 6, when I first heard Elvis and the Beatles. But I started DJing probably about 16 maybe.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something afterwards. I'm going to introduce you to someone from the Elvis Presley clan on our second interview, and then I will hook you up with someone from the Beatles who was there with the Beatles on your third interview with us. That's later. So now let's get into traveling, because I was going to have 2 of the other girls on, one from Houston, Trixie from Custom Trends. She's got a storm going on. They all wanted to meet you. And then DJ Badash. She's done what you've done. She had an emergency with her mom. I love DJs. What you guys do now, I couldn't have done back then. My hat goes off to all you guys who could perform around the world, as you would say, sex, DJing, and everything that goes with it, right?
Yeah. Sex, drugs, and house music. Yeah, it was chaos. It was chaos. And I was very fortunate. I was 18 in 1988. I'm stood in the middle of London with nightclubs just exploding. I mean, you could go out 7 nights a week. Every single night of the week, there was a brilliant nightclub on with an amazing DJ playing. One of my DJ heroes at the time was Danny Rampling, who actually brought house music back from Ibiza with Paul Oakenfold and Johnny Walker and Nicky Holloway. The 4 of them brought house music back to London, started playing it. Well, Danny's very kindly written part 1 of the forward to the book, to Life Remixed. And so, it seems to be just a beautiful thing. There's such a lovely energy behind what we're doing, and the musical community is really grasping this from me. So I'm really grateful about that.
When you're traveling around and it's a lot of high energy, a lot of energy getting out to that crowd and getting back. And a lot of people don't realize this. Everybody thinks they could be a disc jockey, but it's not to be easy to be that. You've got to have talent. You got to be able to listen. I was there when Run DMC and the hip hop. You can imagine this, Mark. I played the first hip hop Rapper's Delight at my school sock hop at an all-white school. And I said, I better be the disc jockey because I'm the only black guy here. So I better step up and start doing this. That's how I became a disc jockey, because I'm like, I think it would have looked funny if I wasn't the disc jockey at an all-white school. So I played Rapper's Delight, and at this moment, you know what it was like to have those 12-inch things. That's what I used to spend all my money on when I was your age, when you were starting out. I would spend $90 a week. Every Friday, I'd go and buy all the latest albums that were coming straight out of New York when I was in Connecticut. And it was fun because I was on it at that point. And going back to this day with all the stuff, when you were hot, when you were doing all this stuff, did you ever think you had anything coming into you? Did you ever feel anything health-wise starting to go before you collapsed? Was there any indication or nothing?
Well, going back slightly, we used to work in a record shop in central London. And there was moments I used to sell vinyl all week. We were selling all this vinyl and it'd be really great, you know, and I worked in this record shop for about 7-8 years. And it was quite funny because we'd work there full time, and me and about 6 other DJs, we'd work there full time. We'd work there 5-6 days a week sometimes. And by the end of the week, you'd be lining up to get your wages, and the manager would be like, right, okay, there's some money for you. Oh, and Mark, you owe me £20. And you'd be like, hang on, I've just worked a week for it. I'm just spending all my money on vinyl. It was, you know, so it was happy times for sure in London at that time. To answer your question, my body started to complain when I was about 26. I started to get a lot of gut aches and gut problems, but the thing was, I went to see a doctor at that time, and I said to the doctor, you know, I thought doctors could fix everything, right? I don't know, maybe it was naive at the time, but I was like, fix me, doc. And the doctor was like, no, I can't do anything. You need to go to bed early. You need to have lots of green vegetables. You need to stop traveling around the world. You need to, you know, I was like, well, how can I do that?
Everything you couldn't do because you were a DJ.
How could I possibly do that? There was no possible way at that moment that I was going to be able to just switch off the DJ, because that was my passion, and music had been with me since I was 6, like I say. So all of this great stuff, and then but the body was complaining, but I wasn't prepared to listen, and I didn't have any other solutions. That was the other thing. I didn't have any other ideas or assets or all the stuff that I do now. I didn't have that knowledge then, and so the body was complaining. But yeah, as you mentioned, one particular day, bang, hit the floor.
Well,
And your lifestyle at that time took you, led you to some habits that were not helping your health also, right?
I had a lot of addictive issues. Yeah, I mean, I had some real addiction. I got addicted to pleasure. I got addicted to everything that was pleasurable. I was like, this is great, and I didn't stop. It was kind of like I was like a runaway train, basically. You know, I also found a way through music to then sort of, I got addicted to lots of things. And then I went out into the world and found this way to support my addictions through like 20 years of traveling all over the globe, playing records to people, you know, and beautiful moments of absolute beauty when 2,000 people are celebrating a song that you've chosen and you're playing, and you know, that energy is very, very, you know, uplifting.
Surreal. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. And so, but then obviously, yeah, you know, my lifestyle clearly didn't help, let's put it that way.
Well, it also goes into the fact that you're living life to the fullest. Your 20s, you're having fun. I mean, nobody at that age thinks anything's going to happen to us at that point. You know, and you start to reach 30, and then you're like, okay, I can still do this for a while. It's just like if you ask any rock and roller, and I've talked to most of them from around the world, they never thought they were going to make it past age 30. So what surprise, right? And yes, you're traveling around the world, and if you're in Ibiza and you're coming to the States for the first time, you're like, you know, you've made it. With that, when did you knew you made it? Was there a particular place, country?
I think there was a moment when I became resident DJ at Ministry of Sound in London. That was huge, because Frankie Knuckles, David Morales, you know, Masters at Work, you know, these amazing DJs from America, and then some wonderful British DJs like Farley and Henner, CJ McIntosh, and all these guys. This was like the main room of Ministry of Sound was like the sort of hallowed turf. And I'd been on the dance floor for years, just as a punter, just having a great time. Doing other gigs, other places, and ending up back at Ministry of Sound. And then all of a sudden, a friend of mine was promoted to start running the Saturday nights at Ministry. And he said to me, do you want to come and play? And I was like, oh, of course I do. You know, and within 6 months, they'd made me a resident DJ. And it was incredible. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment to become the resident DJ of this iconic club. I mean, it only opened in 1991, but that explosion of house music that came from Chicago, came from Frankie Knuckles and the Warehouse and everything else, and then moved around the world. As you know, when I was standing on that spot with all of those decks in front of me, the two mixers, the rotary mixer, and the sound system in there, it's so beautiful. It's like having a pair of stereo headphones on the middle of a dance hall. I mean, the sound, you can just hear every element of a record and everything. It's incredible. So that moment, I think, you know, that year or so that I was there doing that non-stop residency, that was brilliant.
Well, I'm leading up to something to get to your book. When did you first come to the US, and what club were you in? Do you remember? What year was it?
Well, that's a great question. It was.
That's why I asked, Mark.
Yeah, you're full of good questions. That was probably a bit later. We used to come to Miami a lot, so we did a lot of events at Miami, the winter conference, of course. I never DJ'd at Sound Factory or Sound Factory Bar anywhere like that in New York, but of course I was there as a punter, and it was brilliant. But yeah, New York and Miami were two places that we visited. The music was just phenomenal, and we absolutely loved the vibe. The whole thing, you know, the whole atmosphere was fantastic. So, but that was probably a few years later. The Winter Music Conference was very, very popular with British people, probably from about 2000, you know, to 2006 or in that kind of zone there. But we were over there every single year. It was like Brits abroad. We were just like, right, everyone goes to Miami, and it was just party central.
Well, you make me think of, again, the Bee Gees coming from, again, a lot of people don't know that they came from England, went to Australia, go to England, and then they end up doing that great classic sound where from Eric Clapton recommended to the house in Miami. So Miami, you know, that Miami sound. I remember when Gloria Estefan and everything was coming out with that sound out of there. So that doesn't surprise me. Good for you that you got a chance to go. And good for you that you got a chance to see some of those New York clubs, because I'm sure you probably went nuts.
We had an amazing time. I mean, you were saying like you were the only black guy. We were the only straight guys in some of those clubs. You know, we were like the only straight guys in Sound Factory Bar or in the Sound Factory for Tenaglia and Frankie Knuckles. You know, it's like 2,000 like beautiful gay men, and like me and about 20 of my mates who were a little bit overweight from England. Just going, this is great. But it was brilliant.
But here's the thing: what you just said. It's because of that the gay lifestyle, that nightclub took that house music and made it world renowned, which is why Madonna ended up having, you know, all of those things come on. I'm thinking of Truth or Dare. I think it was 1992 that she does the documentary. I think she's dating Sean Penn at that point. And I was in Los Angeles at that point. So I remember those eras because I was getting out of radio. Again, I saw the writing on the wall and I left. It was Power 106. We were the #1 station in Los Angeles, going up against Kiss FM, going up against K-Rock. We were at those huge clubs, and I saw it starting to change. I said, you know what? It's time to step back. Let these young kids go in. And I didn't have a problem doing it because once I was lugging all my albums in a big backpack, I said, no, I can't do this anymore. So I was laughing at myself because you guys put all your little DVDs and CDs in a little case.
I mean, it's interesting you saying about that. I mean, I played a lot of gay clubs in London as well. I mean, the energy of a gay club is just phenomenal. And I remember one of the promoters was like, I was getting gigs, and he said, yeah, he said, you're not actually gay though, are you, Mark? I said, well, no. Is that bad? My music's uplifting. Can we get past that? Can we get past it? But the thing was, obviously, yeah, I was heavily into vinyl. And I do remember there was a moment which you might relate to as well. There was a DJ on before me, and he was playing some really cool kind of like acid jazz and you know, playing some really cool music that the older crowd, I was 20 and the older crowd were like 30-ish or whatever. And they were, you know, he was playing all this music and I went on and started playing house music, you know, and he literally, he said, what are you doing? He's like, you know, he basically swore at me and said, you need to stop this. But it was that kind of transition between, you know, the older crowd were what's this house music? This is like little kids music. And we were passionate and it swept the nation.
But it was also because you mentioned it, there was different types of house music. See, I heard Chicago house music and it was that sound. I was like, okay, I don't know about this. I knew it wasn't for me, but then again, I figured out there's different types of house music. And I didn't know that until I started asking him like, oh, I like this one. I thought it was all one, and no, not the case.
I mean, the nightclubs in London, it started out when it really, really mushroomed up into this huge energy. There was a lot of acid house music getting played, which was basically 303 drum machines and like, you know, little sounds and bleeps. It was all a bit odd, to be honest, but we all danced to it for a year or two. But I was always from the 80s, the sort of mid 80s. I was a soul boy, so I was always Luther Vandross, Alexander O'Neill, the Fatback Band, Cameo. You know, I was always into all that sort of soulful music. So although I enjoyed that sort of acid house revolution for a while, when it started to flux into like real soulful sounds coming back, so Byron Stingley for singing 10 City tracks and Joe Smooth Promised Land and all that kind of like real uplifting, you know, black soulful music with a house beat, I was like, I'm all in. This is it. I'm all in.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to flip it back onto the UK side because I'm thinking of The Cure. I'm thinking of Depeche Mode in the early 90s and mixing it in because I used to mix, yes, again, owner of a lonely heart, and I would play Richard Pryor underneath it, his comedy. If you can imagine that, and it worked. And they were like, who's this comedy? And they start laughing as they were dancing. I'm like, they didn't know I was mixing Richard Pryor because it was Owner of a Lonely Heart, Danielle, was like 7 to 8 minutes long, but it was a great song, you know?
Yeah, great song.
Very long, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Say 3 dates before you fall, that iconic date when you go down. Did you start to feel something, and where were you at that point? Were you in the UK? Were you traveling?
I didn't feel any. This is the weirdest thing. I didn't feel anything like any body. I mean, I told you about my stomach, and obviously that was the first sign of things. And I think that was clearly it was inflammation in my stomach, in my body starting to show itself, and I was getting these like savage pains. But I went to see a nutritionist, and I did a few things, and it was a bit up and down, up and down, up and down. But there was nothing. There was no other warning about any aches or any pains or any problems in my joints or anything. There was nothing like that whatsoever. And then one day I'm in my flat in London and I'm walking through, I'm carrying a tray of food and my right leg just started buckled basically beneath me. And I didn't understand what was happening. And I just went down. I'm 6'4". I'm quite a big lad, you know, and I hit the deck pretty hard. And luckily I was sharing, my brother was living with me at the time. We were just living off Oxford Circus in central London. My brother was there and he started laughing, I think, to start with, because he was like, what are you doing? But then I was like, I can't get up, and my leg was just, you know, agony, pulsating, come up. I was like, it was like jelly at the back, and I was just like, this is weird. And he helped me up. He helped me up onto the sofa, and that, in a nutshell, was the first day that you know, things were really getting really bad. And the next 18 months though was the real challenge, because the next 18 months, I went to a few doctors, and I ended up going to private doctors and all sorts.
Nobody knew what it was.
Nobody could tell me what it was. Nobody could diagnose it. And I got weaker and weaker and weaker and more pain. I lost about 4 stone in a couple of weeks at one point. It was literally like, you know, and I just looked like a wreck, you know. And I mean, I did manage to do, I was massive, you know, taking hundreds of painkillers, and someone, a couple of my DJ gigs gave me a little stool to sit on. So I literally just sat on this little stool and mixed a couple of records to be able to like earn something. And quite a few people came up to me, and people that I'd known for some years, and they were like, are you all right, mate? Because, you know, you don't look good here, you know. And I was in agony, and the more it went on, I couldn't sleep at night, so I'd sleep for a couple of hours, fitful sleep, wake up in the night, felt like someone was stabbing me in the ribs. I couldn't put any weight on my heels when I tried to get up. It was just, the whole thing was just awful. And it led to suicidal thoughts, unfortunately. It got deep, it got bad. And there was times when I just thought, I'm in bits here, you know, and I'm 33, 34. Is this it? You know, am I done here? You know, and it's a really mental kind of prison that you're in, because you're just like, your body's failed and you're just in bits. And that was super tough. It was the hardest moment of my life, to be honest.
This was then when you stopped DJing?
So what's the question, Danielle? Sorry?
Was this time that you stopped working?
No, well, I managed to just eke out enough to have a few pounds coming in, a bit of money coming in. And I was also fortunate enough to, was living with a partner, and we had, you know, we were looked after in some ways, so we were okay at that time. And it was kind of, it was a moment where, I don't know, the universe, looking back on it, the universe just provided for me enough to be able to get through, and God bless and thank you to everyone who was around me at that moment to help me. But yeah, my DJing started to just, I was shot to bits really, and I managed to sort of just keep going, but then one day, after about 18 months of this, you know, madness, I shuffled into a new doctor, and she said to me, she took one look at me and said, "I'm surprised you've managed to keep going this long, to be honest." That's what she said. And I was like, well, look at me, look, you know, is there anything you can do? She said, "You need an emergency rheumatology appointment." I'm like, I've never even heard the word rheumatology, but okay. And she said, 6 weeks it'll take. I'm like, okay, well, I've been here 18 months, so 6 weeks is not gonna add any more to it. So she finally got me this this appointment after 6 weeks, this emergency appointment. I walked in, I sat, shuffled in. He said to me, right, he heard my tale of woe, and then he said, "Bad luck, you've got this." He gave me a pamphlet. It was called ankylosing spondylitis, and he said, take these drugs for the rest of your life, and you know, you should be all right, sort of thing. And I took that medication, and very, very quickly, within a few hours almost, I was like, you know, modern medicine is actually incredible, you know, and we must never negate it. You know, it actually just, I was okay, you know, almost like okay again, pretty much. I mean, still had some pain, but nothing like what I've been suffering for 18 months. And then, you know, I mean, funny, tragic, I don't know. Would I never learn is the question I would ask myself, because my initial thought was, brilliant, Danny Ramplin's doing a massive party 100 yards from my flat on Saturday evening with Frankie Knuckles playing. I can go and party all night. I was like, you know, I mean, really, what I look back at it now and I think, mate, seriously, you know, you should have been listening more. And I had to go through quite a few more painful kind of twists and turns as they are listed in Life Remixed and written out, before the light bulb really kind of went, and I was like, okay, I need to sort this out.
Well, the interesting thing about that is you became that star athlete who knew there might have been something wrong, but it took the universe to sideline you. Nobody ever wants to hear that, but that's really what it was, because it would have been your life. And since you're doing everything fast speed like that, I can understand, because I've been around a lot of those people. I was always I called me the designated driver. They would party and all this stuff, and I would say, wow, I don't want to do that. I'll make sure that they get home safely. And I would tell them everything that they did because they couldn't remember. So I watched from a lot of those things like that. So I understood that. You wanted to make sure that your friends were okay. And then when it happened to you, your friends were there. And when you're sidelined for that, then things start to set in. The depression starts to set in. Will I be able to go back and do what I was good at doing? Will I be able to just stand up and walk? And it starts to play mind tricks on you, and it's a mental thing. And then you got to change your eating habits at that point. And that's just, you know, your mind is confused, your body's already screwed, and then you got the doctors and everything like that. And as you said, medication is a good thing as long as you're taking the right doses and it's the right one for what you need at that point.
Well, it gets you out of, it can get you out of jail almost, you know. It allowed me to sort of be okay again for a little while, but at the similar time, at the similar moment, because of my stomach cramps, I've been going on detoxes up to Scotland, and I went on about 3 or 4 of these detoxes, and it's about the 3rd or 4th time I was up there. And Brian Miller, bless him, what a guy! You know, he's a fantastic man. I'm still in touch with him. Brilliant guy. He's like Yoda to my Luke Skywalker or whatever, you know. And he basically said, he said, you need to watch this, and he gave me a lot of CD, you know, a DVD, and I was like, okay. And he said The Secret on it, and I was like, all right. So I put it in, and I watched The Secret, and I gave it back to him. I said, there you go, mate. And he said, he went, no.
Watch one more time.
I watched it 100 times, is what he said to me, and I was like, what? I've never watched the film 100 times in my life. What are you talking about, man? But then he was adamant. He said, do it, and I said, okay. So I went and watched it again twice in one day, and I did watch it 100 times, if not more. And the bit that the real bit, the light bulb moment for me in there, and there's some beautiful stuff in there, of course, and some interesting stuff. I even got challenged earlier on an interview about the things that are not in there, and we had a great conversation about that as well. However, the stuff that's in there, when Bob Proctor said a dis-ease is 2 words, and you must hyphenate it. And then he said, you cannot have a dis-ease if you are, emotionally, mentally, at ease. I was like, what? Well, hang on, what? And the doctor's just told me I've got an incurable disease, but you're saying it's a dis-ease. And that was light bulb. That was light bulb. And I was like, right, okay, I need to know more about this.
That's exactly what it is. It's dis-ease. And, I don't get headaches, Mark. My health has always been pretty good. And I'm 60. But I also tell people it's because I've never been married, don't have any kids. So that's half of it. But I read a book once, and I read The Secret, and I talked to the author. It's one of those things where I read in the book someplace, and I never forgot my sophomore year in high school, that headaches are from illogical thinking. And I said, oh, if that's what that is, then I'll never get a headache. Because I think that was ingrained in me, I've never had a headache. I've had 2 small little minor things for like 60 seconds, 90 seconds the most. I'm like, if this is a headache, I never want to experience this. So a lot of my friends who have massive migraines for ages, days, some of them had to go to UCLA, a hospital, to get to knock themselves out. One guy would have to go running. He had massive migraines, and I'm like, how does that help? But it was like his way of just calming his mind down for some strange reason. And I remember Larry Flint. He just passed away yesterday. I would always see Larry Flint. He was always in his wheelchair. And I would always go and talk to him, say, I hope, Larry, I hope you're doing okay. Because my good friend was physically challenged. He was in a wheelchair, but he could drive. And he couldn't get out and play with his son. So I would play with his son for him. And I always connected like that. So, when I was reading a little bit of your story, I'm like, oh, I'm already connected to Mark. He doesn't even know it yet. So
thank you. That's really nice of you to say
a little bit what she went through, not having to go through it, but kind of being there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense, and I really appreciate you saying that. And I do believe that we are all connected. There's now that I understand about the universe and the law of attraction, the law of vibration, in fact, indeed, all the universal laws that I'm still learning. We're all still learning. Every day is a school day, right? But for me, it's very much important to share what I've learned up to this point and put it into Life Remixed. And what I'm finding is the energy that's behind this from some of the endorsements we've had. And this is the bit, I watched Bob Proctor and Marcy Shimoff 15 years ago in The Secret. And they have now both put their names, the endorsements onto the back of Life Remixed, which is just, thank you. But it's blown our minds in many ways. It's beautiful, beautiful thing. And, The Secret did brilliantly well. Bob and Marcy were 2 of the contributors, 2 of the stars. And for them to actually then endorse me and Life Remixed 15 years after I first watched them is something special.
Mark,
Danielle.
I would like to ask Mark to explain the name of the book, because I think that the concept is fantastic.
Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, absolutely. So Life Remixed, many people ask me what a remix is, because there's a lot of people out there that maybe are not DJs and not music producers and don't understand it. So a remix, I'll get given all the parts. So for Lou Reed and David Bowie, I got given all the separate tracks. So I had Lou Reed's vocal, David Bowie's backing vocal, I had the bass line, I had the guitar, I had the drums, I had everything on a separate track. So there it's all laid out. And then I go in, and as a remixer and a record producer, I will pick the parts that I like, that I want to keep, and I will keep those parts and rearrange it into something that becomes the Mark Wilkinson remix. And we did that with Dab Hand's remix that we put into the top 10 here in the UK. So, and I did that with Kylie and David Guetta and all kinds of artists over quite a decent career. It was good times. So, and I used to do well, certainly when vinyl. When the internet came out, it changed everything, but that's in Life Remixed as well. But Life Remixed itself is exactly the same concept, right? Because I've kept the bits of me, the parts of me that I like, and the parts of me that are like, my personality, that are good and have good qualities and do good things in the world. I've kept all of that, but I've remixed all the negativity and all the doubts and fears and worries and anxieties and everything else. I've just remixed all of that to one side, and then actually gone, right, okay, how can I recreate myself in a better way? And the main point of the story is from incurable disease and unable to walk, I then ran 4 marathons. And to me, that was like a mind-blowing experience, especially when I crossed the finish line of the first marathon. That was special. And there's a little story around that with a yellow T-shirt, which I won't ruin for you. And then I also went from bankrupt, because off the back of the disease, I had a few years, and then I ended up bankrupt. The business went down in the credit crunch and everything else. I had to relearn all of that as well. And I was 38 years of age, living in my mum's spare room, going, after this 20-year DJ career, going, what's just happened to me? But that's when I started to study more about multiple sources of income and assets and everything else. And I've gone from bankrupt to financially free within the last 10 to 12 years. And that's life remix, right? That's changing everything.
And you found the love of your life.
A wonderful wife. I mean, she's amazing. Yeah, none of this would be happening without her. She's an incredible person. And yeah, I mean, Emma's just she's just that person. I don't want to say we're complete anyway, but we just together we're massively powerful together. We make each other better, and again, that's a very, very beautiful thing to experience.
Hey Mark, do you have the book next to you?
I do not actually. No. Oh, hang on. I've got a version of one. Here we go. There it is.
All right. I want you to hold that up and think about this real quick. We got about 7 minutes left. Pick out a chapter and just read a portion of something that's inspirational.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've got it here in front of me, one sec, because I do this every week. I actually do an online live. And so what we've got at the end of every single chapter, so we've got 14 chapters, and at the end of every single chapter, there is some remix opportunities. And so if I just pick out chapter 11, just on the fly, completely, just randomly, I've just chosen it. Chapter 11 is just called Happy. And you might recognize that certain titles might remind you of things. But at the end of the day, the chapter 11 is called Happy. And the remix opportunities at the end of it, one of the most vital ones that I got from Bob Proctor is calm down and speed up. And actually, the calmer you are in life, and I used to be all over the place and rushing. And actually now the calmer I've become, the faster my life is going, as in like the business is going quicker, everything is going quicker because I'm calmer. Another one would be know and understand your purpose and get into the universal laws, which is all encompassed in Life Remixed. Love, for me, I ask people a lot what love actually is, and I rarely get an answer. I really get an answer that people can. What I find with human beings is if we can actually quantify it, if we can articulate it, then it makes it much easier to understand. So for me, I've come to the definition that love is total acceptance. So that's a whole nother piece and a whole nother piece to the book. I would say you can clear your life. You can heal your life. And the last one I'd say is clear your mind, live in this present moment, and then happiness is your natural state.
Well, I would also say this: if you can't love yourself, how are you supposed to have someone love you if you don't love yourself? Because the people that we meet in our life are a reflection of who we are, where we are in our lives.
Exactly right.
I always believe in universal law. I've been practicing Buddhism for 33 years, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And by the way, Mark, I want your book, because I'm going to put it on our site and I want to read it, because I love stuff like that. It's not only is it inspiring, a lot more people need to know. And you can never there's never enough people to know about your story, because I know your story is interesting.
Thank you.
Disc jockey, I liked you from the beginning, right from there.
I was already in the door with the DJ bit.
You were already there before you put the needle on the record.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that.
Hey, Danielle, real quick, give your side of the book. Talk about your book real quick.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay. My book is available at Amazon. I think that Mark can also say where his book will be available at and where people can find him.
Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, so from the 23rd of February this year, in just about 10 days time when we're recording. So on the 23rd of February, the book will be released to the world. It will be on Amazon and all good bookstores. And you can also find more about me at markwilkinsonofficial.com. I would love to connect with people. I'd love to hear people's stories. I love people. People are amazing. They fascinate me. I think they're wonderful.
And you do your straight talks And you do also DJ sessions on Saturdays, right?
Every Saturday night we do a live DJ session because we're helping a lot of people get through lockdown. So we're really doing that. And then I'm live 5 or 6 times a week across the internet, just with little tips and hints. And like I just did there with you, Brian, just a few things that are in the book. I want to help as many people as possible. And the irony of this is I've had this idea for 10 to 12 years. It's about recovering from a crisis. And then the world delivers coronavirus, which, is a worldwide crisis. And there's many people out there with anxiety, doubt, fear, worry, disease, depression, going through a divorce or money change.
Suicidal thoughts.
It's suicidal thoughts. And hey, guess what? It's all in Life Remixed. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm so grateful.
And you are a coach also, right?
Yeah, I coach people. I've got a business, life, wealth coach. 10 companies, multiple sources of income. Anyone can do it. I'm not some sort of genius. I've just got motivated after some tough times.
All right, Mark, this is what I'm going to do. Next interview that we have coming up with you for March, you're going to meet 2 or 3 of the girls.
Amazing.
One, the DJ Badass from Los Angeles, who did and still doing what you're doing. One will be Trixie Jen from Houston, Texas. She creates a lot of our stuff because she wanted to hear about your story. And she does a lot of music down there in Texas. And then one will be Terry Marie, my #1 co-host. She's got over 3 million views. She would love to hear your story. So when you get a chance to come over, I always say this, it'll be after April 15th. It'll be a slow, steady grow of starting to open things up because Los Angeles, New York, Chicago are really bad right now. But we've been helping a lot of people in the music industry. And I think your book will be a really, really good read for a lot of people because you come from the music world. You understand that lifestyle. You were that rock and roller behind the wheels of steel. So I understand that. So I got to end with this. Mark, I want to thank you so much. Show your book one more time for the audience, please.
Thank you, mate. There it is, Life Remixed by Mark Wilkinson. Thank you.
Give your social media links real quick, too.
Can you see that as well there, Brian? Looking beyond the dance to face the music, yeah? Social media, you can find me on YouTube, Mark Wilkinson Official, the Mark Wilkinson Official website, all over Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, @DJ Mark Wilkinson. You can find Mark Wilkinson and Life Remix pretty much everywhere. We're not hiding, Brian. And honestly, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to you for this evening. It's been amazing to meet you. Your story is incredible. I love the DJ angle as well. So I'm really grateful. Looking forward to more hookups together.
Well, sometime after September, it might even be next year. We'll see what the cases are. I'll invite you up to the property. We'll invite you to the studio and we'll break out the stuff and you'll be able to show us a little bit of what you used to do and we'll have your book there on the studio. When they come and visit us, they'll come and see it and they can buy it there also. All right.
I'm all over that idea, Brian. You're an absolute gentleman. And what I will do as well, I'll send you my Mixcloud link as well so you can hear some of the DJ mixes as well.
Oh, cool. The girls will love that. Dan,
I'll send it over.
Give your social media links real quick.
Sorry, was that for me?
For Danielle.
Oh, sorry, Danielle.
DanielleMartins.com, Danielle Martins Official on Instagram, Danielle Martins on Facebook, everywhere.
All right, so thank you, Mark. Thank you, Danielle. I'm going to say this. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. I'm Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, and we will see you next week.